may appear that I'm a little bit late arriving to the party because I know quite a few have already started planting their potatoes. So for me, usual two varieties. There's the Charlotte for my second early and the Sarpalmera as the main crop. No first earlies. In the Charlottes I'll be doing 12 containers and the Sarpalmera I'll be doing 6. For the Charlottes I'll be splitting those into 2 lots of 6. Doing 6 now and leaving the next 6 to about 2 to 3 weeks farther down the road, and hopefully that will give us a little bit of variation in cropping time. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the compost mix. The bulk of the growing media is the potato compost that I've used from the previous season. I'll tend to run this through probably 3 years, then after that goes onto the beds and I actually use fresh composting. But to replenish the nutrients in here, I do make a few additions, and one of them is called 6X, and this is a natural fibrous manure. Lovely smell to it, and so this is quite a slow release, but it'll last throughout the season. And all I do with that is mix it up, mix it into the soil. Planting is exactly the same as most other people do, so I won't force you through watching all that. Also though, it is my I think it's 3rd year in growing in containers, and I must say I've had some decent crops. I always do 2 layers of 2 potatoes, and the other addition besides the 6X you saw earlier, I do add an handful of potato fertiliser around each layer of planting. I have done a detailed video in how I grow in the containers in the Grow Made Easy series, and I'll put a little link up in this top corner up here, I think that's where it is, where you can check it out in more detail. I used to grow in the ground, as you probably know if you've been with the channel for quite a while, and I'm not going to say that one method is any better than the other. You've got to really try them out for yourself and see which works for you. When I was growing in the ground, I did get some good crops. But there's 2 things that convinced me to change to containers. And first of all, I dislike digging up potatoes. I spared that many, and it really did put me off. But secondly, I find that you can leave these in the containers for a long while unattended. I mean, this year I've only just, I think it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago, harvested the Sarpalmera. There's 12 containers there, and they look fairly good. And it's only a couple of weeks before that, the last container of the Charlotte. And they've been left outside with no cover at all, and they've stood the test of time. And with the ground, I realised that sometimes the slugs would have a little go of them, which knocked them off kilter a little bit. But anyway, there's 2 methods to try. I've also done a detailed version of the growing in the ground as well, the open ground method. So again, a video will come up there. Check them out both, and if you're undecided, try both and see which works for you. This can be initially expensive because you've got to find the compost to do, and say these are 30 litres, so growing 12 will be 360 litres, fair bit of compost. But like I say, I use this for 3 years and then it gets replenished. One final note, I do keep the soil level about 2 inches below the rim of the container, and that's for a couple of reasons. First of all, it acts as a reservoir and it keeps the water from overspilling and lets it soak right the way in. But the second reason is I actually top this up with straw right to the top, and that has a couple of benefits. First of all, it does help retain the moisture and stops evaporation, or reduces it anyway. But the other thing is, as the shoots emerge, like now we've got frost forecast overnight, any tender shoots emerging, this will give them a bit of added extra protection against the frost. So this is just pulled straight off the horse manure pile, and sometimes you do get an added bonus of a few nuggets. This bed here is planned to be the permanent raspberry bed. Be little raised sides and planted in there, but don't think I'm going to get around to it for the next few months anyway. So what I'm going to do, I've got this barrow of manure. So you just put that down as a layer and just place the raspberries which are in the pots and let them run in there for potentially a year. This is one of the plants in question. And say the original raspberry bed over there, as the plants had died, I'd replaced them with various other things from donations and that. And to be honest, the crop was getting worse and worse, so in the end I decided to rip the lot out. So I purchased new stock. I got these from Sutton's, and these are bare-rooted plants. And I went back to the original plant that I grew when I started my allotment, and that's called Autumn Bliss. These arrived, as I said, as bare root, so I soaked them overnight, put them in these pots, and I put them in the coal frame. They've all done very well. In fact, with the heat that this generates, they've done too well, so I decided now to get them out. A bonus, I can put them outside now, and it's also emptied the coal frame. So with the manure we've just laid down, I'm going to pop these on top and see how they go. So there we are, finished. So this is only a temporary measure. I've banked it up with the horse manure in the hope that the roots will travel down and provide some feed during the course of the mare. Not sure how long they're going to be till I build a permanent bed, but at least, if need be, these will last at least a year here. To finish the day off, the coal frame's empty now, so I've decided to put the potato pots in that we've filled earlier today. I'm going to pop them into the coal frame, put the lights back on, because we are forecast a few cold nights and potentially we could go below zero. So this will help warm the soil up and hopefully kick them into action. Ever since I started my allotment, I've always practiced crop rotation. Now, because I've started to replace the beds, the surrounds and that, I've really not prepared the beds soil-wise, because some beds are manure, some I don't. So I'm going to take a flyer this year and grow the same crops in the bed as I grew last year. As you can see, the wood around here is completely rotted. So rather than race and try and get the pavers and slabs in, because putting them in, the actual dimensions of the beds will change slightly. I don't really know what size they will be yet. I'll probably make the paths slightly wider because I can get the barrow down more easily, but that's what's going to happen. So in the interim, I'll probably be putting a little patch or something along here just to keep the support in to remain and hold the soil in. So this here is going to be the bean bed again, and in here I'll be growing me shallots because they're in the cold greenhouse in there, ready to go out. I'm actually getting root bound, so the sooner I can get them out the better. So first of all, I'm going to just tittle the soil over the top. That tilling certainly warms you up. I must say there's a remarkable drop in the temperature over the last day or two, and that's why I've got the fleecy top on. I'm just giving this a top dressing now with superphosphate, and it's something I always do with my allium beds, and that seems to keep on going throughout the season. That'll stay in there for probably two or 3 days, and if we have no rain in between, I'll give it a tilling in, and in the meantime that'll give me a chance to patch the sides of these boards up. As you can see, the lettuce has put on a real growth spurt. These have just been in the greenhouse down there, cold. Once they've pricked out, they've picked up. It's them last few days we had where the sun was out, they've really boosted. So I'm going to plant a few out now. There's 4 varieties here. 2 here in both oak leaf. There's Navarra on the left and Smile. And these are Lolo mixed and Little Gem. I'm going to start by putting a few off into the Vegepod. This is empty now. It's had the cover on so the soil will be warm. The plan for this year, I think, I'm going to put about 4 peppers in here in the centre. And then interplant them with catch crops like spring onion, lettuce, radish and that sort of thing. But the peppers still a bit too cold for the fetch the peppers out yet. So first of all, I'll just do a bit of planting around the outside with some of these lettuce. Leaving space for the 4 pepper plants that's going in there. I've still got room, I think, and I'm going to pop a couple of rows in of these spring onions. These ones are White Lisbon, and these ones are my favourite, called Ramrod. It's amazing, really, just moving your fingers down a couple of centimetres into this soil, the difference in temperature, how warm it is. And that's because I've got this plastic cover on, the winter cover, and I'm going to keep that on for at least another 2 or 3 weeks because the temperatures are a little bit unstable, as I said before, and I'm sure that will give these a good boost. So there we have it all planted up. They do look a bit flat at the moment. I've just watered them and the lettuce have sunk a little bit, but they'll soon pick up. So there's the spring onions, form a cross in the middle, surrounded on the outside by the lettuce, and that leaves 4 spaces in the middle, right at the deepest part of the sump, and in there I'll be going for pepper or chilli plants. The last few days I've had a number of deliveries and I thought I'd share them with you. First of all, I've been looking at a way of improving my heating system in the greenhouse in the garden. When it is extremely cold, I do add these pillar candles, which do the job reasonably well, and I've also got the Vegepod, which have performed exceptionally this year. But as a more permanent fix, I've been looking out on the internet and noticed quite a few YouTube gardeners are using what I call Chinese diesel heaters. I'll put a picture up here of the one. So I've invested in one, had one delivered, and I also got an extra long exhaust kit because I want to route it around the base of the greenhouse and have it as a permanent fixture. Hopefully that'll be installed. It'll be the end of this year now, ready for the winter to come, hopefully. So that's the Chinese diesel heater. Secondly, on Instagram, a company I follow is called iTip Handles, and they produce ergonomic handles. Originally they were for, I think it was wheelbarrows, but you can use them on push chairs, wheelchairs, stacker trucks, anything like that. And they recently held a competition, which I was successful in winning. It was a glass container and you had to guess the number of handles in there. Anyway, they contacted me and told me I'd won. A guy named Andy, so I was a bit cheeky and asked them if they could supply them in the cause of my favourite local football team, Wolverhampton Wanderers, and here they are. These, I did have a pair of the original ones, green, and they was in this greenhouse, but we had some unwanted visitors and they disappeared when they'd actually been in, so I didn't actually get them fitted to the wheelbarrow. But I'm not going to leave these hanging around. These are going to be on the wheelbarrow, and say it does make tipping the handles a lot easier. So thanks very much, Andy at iTip Handles. And last but not least, you may remember the video I did where I prepared the permanent bean bed and the concerns we got of the slabs splaying out with once the compost had settled. I put a temporary fix on there with some nylon rope round, twisted and with some cable ties around. But shortly after that, a guy named Rob from his channel's called Weekend Shedhead contacted me. And before I know it, the postman arrived struggling with this. This is a huge ratchet strap. It's 5 metres long and it does 2.5 tons. So I'll be fitting that, but first of all I'm going to make 4 aluminium corner brackets so that when the brackets are on the corner, when I put the tension on the strap, it doesn't actually chafe the webbing on there. So that'll be going onto the bed very soon. Thanks very much, Rob. So I'm going to crack on a bit now and say it's got a bit cold outside, but I want to try and patch that allium bed up we saw, so I can get these shallots here. These need planting out sooner rather than later. They've got a lot of root binding now, so I'm going to crack on with that. Many thanks for watching. Stay safe and see you in the next one. Bye for now.